everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Pathfinder Report. It's good to have you here. I have a special guest with me here today. He held the title of Field Director, which is not something you hear used very often. He is a Generation Joshua alumni, plans on working with Project Pathfinder in the future, if I am not mistaken. And we are very happy to have him here in the studio today. I have here Mr. Ryan Michaud. How are you doing today, Ryan?
Oh, I'm good, Ethan. How are you?
I'm doing well. I made it. It's cold outside, but I've made it nonetheless. It's starting to thaw, but it'll just, refreeze,
I
as is the
I
way of
hate the
things.
winter. I
It's
hate the winter. The
it's
cold
so
can go
cold.
away.
So, Ryan, there are a lot of people that know you from their experience at camp, either being a camper alongside you or they are part of generations that have heard legends legends of a presidency that was allegedly one of the best that's ever hit the White House at Jim J summer camps. For what reasons that is I don't know. I've heard many tales. But could you briefly summarize, I guess, your experience with Gen J?
So no, I got started with Gen J when I was 14 years old. So back in 2017,
We don't
18,
we don't think about
18.
years and ages. It's
Long
fine.
time ago.
In a galaxy far
Um,
away. Yes.
yeah, back when we still had I Govern West back at Bear Trap Ranch. So yes, first camp was then. I went to camp every single year they had it from 2018 until 2022 when I served as president.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only person to ever win two I Govern presidential elections. So I won in 2021 at I Govern West, and then they canceled I Govern West because they were scared of me being president. So I came to I Govern East and I ran again and won and showed them that I was inevitable.
You can't keep Ryan down. He will rise to the top, rise to the challenge, and conquer all.
Yes, I
But
wanted my term. I wanted
yeah,
nuclear codes.
you know what? Having those fun little numbers is always great, even though we're not actually talking about nuclear codes. We're talking about camp simulation stuff, which at some point we'll have a video talking about all of the fun things that happened at camps. But there were reasons why story game stuff shouldn't be talked about when we went on field trips into DC, and talking about nuclear launch codes was in fact one of them. So,
I don't know
uh,
that story.
uh, so that wasn't where you stopped, though, if I'm not mistaken. You had a term in the Oval Office, and
hmm
then later on, you came back as an intern, if I'm not mistaken. You interned
I
for Gen
did.
J.
I did their leadership academy in the final year that they had that, and hopefully, as Project Pathfinder develops, I'm sure a long term internship is bound to be in its future.
They're
Um,
talking. They're talking about a leadership fellowship right now, is what it's called, the Pathfinder Fellowship.
awesome.
That is their version. The Pathfinder version of the Leadership Academy is
hmm
the fellowship. So
Yeah, and that's great. That was one of the greatest years of my life. Grew a lot during that year. Really was challenged by a lot of people, definitely Jeremiah especially, um, to seek after truth, to learn more, and in good ways, where it's not just like, oh, you think this, that's stupid, but they actually will challenge what you believe. They will help you grow. They will help you learn. They'll help you learn how to read. They'll help you learn how to dive into books, into scripture, into theology, into whatever it is. If you want to talk to Glenn about procedure, if you want to talk to Joel about laws on the books, Alyssa, if you want to talk to Alyssa about meteorology, they will talk to you about any of these things. It is so much fun to dive into nerd subjects with them.
you did that for a year, and then kind of full circle, that Leadership Academy was also being an intern at the camp that you were president for. So
Yeah.
you not only did you get to go up through the ranks, win 2 presidential elections, serve a presidential term, and then got to do the whole thing from the staff side of it. How, if you could summarize that, all like an all-encompassing summary of it.
Pure
uh,
chaos.
Pure chaos,
Pure
but
unbridled chaos.
in a good way, I assume.
Oh,
Otherwise,
of
you would not be
course.
talking about it so well.
No, in the best ways possible. But like it started with my first ever year at camp where I ended up having to be taken to the hospital. Um and then during the internship, I also had to go to the hospital, but we
I
also went
remember that one.
to Italy and then yeah, so it's just like always something unique happening. And I can't believe I came back after like having that first year was a rough year. At camp, I was not a very good party treasurer, and I ended up in the hospital, which was embarrassing. And I still decided to come back, but it's just
Mm.
always chaos, and it's always something more to learn. It's always a learning moment. I made mistakes one year. I came back the next year, did the same thing, and did better, and didn't make the same mistakes. I learned how to speak in front of people. My first time ever doing a speech at iGovern was a less than 1 minute speech that I stuttered through and my hand was shaking and I couldn't even get through what I had planned. To then giving a State of the Union address for 20 minutes, which I was still terrified for, but I was much more composed and really able to keep pushing through, even though it's something I'm uncomfortable with.
Mm.
So it's chaos, it's learning, it's growth. As Joel always says, leadership is a muscle, and if we don't work it out, it's not going to grow. And so
Ain't
they
that
do
the
a really
truth?
good job,
Goodness.
and they do a really good job in unique ways of stretching those muscles.
Mm. So this sounds like a perfect segue to what field field camp was it field okay, I might have misstated it. Is it field manager or field campaign manager?
So it is going to completely depend based on the campaign you have. The generic title for a lot of what I did was being a field director. That was my first campaign job before I started working with another group. But essentially, my job was to work with volunteers, recruit volunteers, go to events, plan events, work with the candidate, manage his schedule, basically tell the candidate who's running for office, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be here at this time,
Mm-hmm.
which is really weird when you're 20 years old and the candidate's 68 and you're like texting him every 2 hours of, hey, by the way, make sure you show up to this thing. One of the best parts about it was getting to work with so many people within the community, getting involved with local college groups, for all of our students. When you guys, if many of you are probably going to go to a college of some kind, there are great groups, great political groups, not even necessarily always like party affiliated groups, not like just young Republicans, not a TPUSA chapter, but there are all sorts of wonderful politically engaged groups on campuses all over the place. I worked with over 200 students from that campus, working within a few different campaigns in the area, and just getting to see young people like myself, like our students, who are also interested in making a difference, who are also interested in getting involved, who are fighting the same fights, who have the same convictions as you. Is it such a nice motivator when you're out on the campaign trail and you're working 80, 90, 100 hours a week, and it's one fire that needs to be put out after another. Really being able to work with the community was a really fun part of being a field director.
That's awesome, dude. That's that. I mean, it sounds like you were experiencing some of the best parts of the job, and actually, sounds like you were just experiencing all of the job to the fullest extent you could experience it.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but having that all-encompassing view of the Gen J experience and having that all-encompassing view of the field director experience, what would you say was the thing from the Gen J experience that prepared you most for the field director experience?
So I have two things.
Mm-hmm.
The first big thing is when I was doing the internship, working in an environment where everything changes so fast. We'll be at a conference and we'll have a schedule for a 2 day conference, and we'll change that schedule 6 times in 2 days. Having to work with that, having to work in the flow of constant changing, constant mishaps, constant things just not going the way you expected or planned for them to go, really, really prepared me for, let's say, when one of my volunteers called me and tells me that there are 4 cop cars surrounding his car and not letting him leave a neighborhood. Was not on my plan to do that day. I had to drive 45 minutes over to get to him because DC traffic at 4:30 in the afternoon, where
Ugh.
he's surrounded by four police cars, and at this point, 7 or 8 cops are out of the cars, standing around his car and standing around my volunteer. And it was like I wasn't prepared for that, but I had a lot of training in adjusting quickly when the plan goes astray.
Mm.
And then when I was president, the second week, statecraft, one of the things I learned how to do really well that week was to do nothing. Sometimes the situation calls for this person to do the job. And as president, it was my job to say, okay, I need my Secretary of Defense to make the call on this. We've talked about it. He knows how I think. It's his job to go do it. And it's my job now to wait for him to do it. As a field director, there were countless things that I wanted to jump right on and say, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. We had social media issues. We weren't posting enough. We weren't posting good content. I couldn't jump on that and say, hey, we need to, let's post this, let's post this. I can help out. I can send some good ideas. I can send updates about the field program. I can send videos and pictures from the canvassing adventures. Um, but I couldn't just jump over and do it. Instead, I had to talk to somebody and say, hey, this needs to get done. This isn't getting done. Bring it to the right person's attention so they can get onto it. That's something I've never been a big fan of. I hate that. Sitting back and doing nothing and watching it fly by as I can't control it. But that was something that I really was forced to get comfortable with during camp.
How often does delegation feel like sitting back and being lazy?
Every time.
Every time. I am a slave to that as well. And I
Every time. Yeah.
agree with you 100%. Delegation can feel like being the biggest slacker in the room, but when it comes down to it, you are the decision maker. You just made the decision to trust somebody else with the decision, and that's not lazy. That is a layer of a level of tactical thinking that
Yeah.
you got elected for in that case.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and
So,
in the real world, if I had tried to jump in on social media, I spend literally most of my days, especially early in the campaign, is recruiting volunteers.
mm,
I'm calling college after college after college, group after group after group, person after person after person. I'm out with any event I'm at. If you ever see somebody at a political event and you see them with a big clipboard, like big clipboard, getting as many people to sign that as possible, that's probably a field director. That person's job, they're finding people who are willing to volunteer. Maybe they're willing to go to events and run a booth for them. Maybe they're willing to go out and knock doors. Maybe whatever they're willing to do um, is amazing. And that's how sometimes it's literally sitting at a booth with a clipboard saying, "Will you go knock doors for us?" And you get 1 or 2 volunteers a week sometimes. If you stop doing it and you don't get those volunteers because you're focused on something else, that whole field program can run ashore.
right. that's a lot to shoulder as a young volunteer. And when you're in a situation like that, as we call them youngsters because they're younger than us, but really, I mean, they're old enough to be our little siblings at this point, kind of still maybe. I don't know. That's again
I mean, you're getting up there. I'm
years
still
and age.
doing all
Shh,
right.
shush. It's at camp and at SAT on student action teams and events like that where it's go get out the vote, go advocate for yourself. Gen J did, Pathfinder does and will do a really good job at that because that's just what they do. They do advocacy and they help promote advocacy. So it sounds like your experience with that helped you or contributed to your success in that field, because I know you're in kind of like a career change right now just because your interests have changed, but it sounds
Yeah.
like you were fairly successful because you were well equipped. Like I, I
Y-
I know if I
yeah.
had rolled up to a situation where a volunteer was surrounded by law enforcement officers due to a misunderstanding, I don't know that I would be mentally adept enough to deal with that. So kudos to you. Genji's mission and Pathfinder's mission um, have been good advocacy, good citizenship, um, Christ likeness, I guess, not likeness, but being a Christ centered American citizen, um, and trying to lean on him as you develop a path forward. Um, Regardless of career change, how has your time at Gen J helped calibrate your sense of what you want to do going forward?
Because of Gen J, because of my time at Gen J, truth became so important to me. Um,
Mm, mm-hmm.
it became the most important thing to me. I grew up some issues with my siblings and not a great relationship there, and they have fallen away from faith in Christ, which gave me questioning why are my older siblings falling away from this thing. And even now, I have joined a different Christian tradition than what I grew up in. And there were all these questions going around in my brain, and Gen J was really what taught me to focus on that and say, these are good questions. Don't let them be questions. Go find the answers. And they taught and equipped me to go find the answers. Um, and so I think for all things, I love campaigns. I love being a field director. There's still a part of me that would love to be a campaign manager on a presidential campaign. That sounds awesome. Sounds miserable, but it sounds awesome. It's funny how those two things coincide.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Um, but the reason I wanted to get involved in campaigning is because I wanted to elect pro-life people into Congress. I wanted to get pro-life votes into Congress. I want to see bills like the heartbeat bill in Georgia, the 6-week bill ban in Florida, the 15-week ban that almost got through in Virginia. I want to see bills like that passing federally and at state level all over America.
It's really cool how you're really passionate about pro life bills. Why is that? Out of all of the truths that you are seeking to promote in your life, why is that the biggest truth that you are seeking to promote in the lives of others in our country?
I think it's the single most important issue facing our country. And I don't think it's limited to abortion
Hmm.
and to unborn. The lack of regard for human life in general is the biggest problem I think is facing our country and really facing the world. Um, like to me, one of the worst statistics I've ever heard is that more babies have been aborted since 2000 than humans killed in all wars throughout all of history.
That's
28% of my generation
yeah.
was aborted and was never born. And I think of the friends I made at camp. I think of the friends I made growing up. One of the few Gen Jers who was a public school kid,
Yeah.
who actually went to school. Um, and uh, I think of all of the great people I knew, especially for me, the people I know from backgrounds left leaning. As a How many other people could I have known? How many other great friends could I have had? How many other amazing people could have could have changed my life for the better? Um, and so, that for me was really something that may be radical about the pro-life fight.
That's pretty solid. That's a pretty solid story. And you've got an excellent point that when disregard for human life becomes the biggest issue, all other issues kind of are waterfall issues from that
Mhm.
one point. It's no longer it like yeah. So many issues are waterfall issues from a disregard for the sanctity of human life. Um, Especially like in the pro-life movement, it's about it's about choosing to keep a baby instead of aborting it. The most precious human form is that of a child, and that disregarding something so precious, so beautiful,
Yeah,
and innocent is just it's horrible. So circling back to why you're in the fight, Ryan, that's really cool to hear that background story and to hear that people from all walks with all kinds of backgrounds and all kinds of uh, motivations, all kinds of
mhm.
motivations can pull stuff from the opportunities that Gen J and Pathfinder have offered and take those lessons and apply them to those drives and move forward. So thank you for
Yeah,
sharing. I know that's for some people, that's really, really heavy. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
yeah.
As you make this transition and continue to seek truth in your life, what is one piece of advice that you would give to another alumni that would find themselves in a similar situation where they're between career fields for whatever reason? Or a piece of advice that you would give to students who are going into camp or graduating camp and they're not quite sure what the direction of their life is because they haven't even started college yet? Um, what is a piece of advice that you would give to them?
Yeah. Well, the first one is prayer. Everything has to start with prayer.
Amen.
And I know everybody feel like that gets thrown out a lot. Like, oh, pray about it, pray about it, pray about it, and that's not even more or less what I mean. Just not even just praying about what you're gonna do in your future, but praying that you're content where you are right now. Praying that you see what God has for you right now. It's easy. There's all sorts of things that I would love to think about for the future. I'm excited for camp. I'm excited to hopefully be able to help out at camp. I'm excited for hopefully going to conferences. I'm excited for hopefully getting a job at a really awesome pro-life organization. And so be content with where you're at now as well. Don't focus on what is to come. As the Lord says, do not be anxious about tomorrow because today has enough problems. Paraphrasing, but that's basically what he says. Today is problematic enough. Don't worry about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Today's problems are more than enough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you never know what you're going to find. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know how your life's going to change or be impacted by one decision at one moment in your life. So never push past where you are right now. Instead, find what God has for you now. Because if you find what He has for you now, it's a lot easier to walk on His path, to
Right.
walk with His path as He
Yes.
guides you, rather than saying, Lord, I want you to guide me here. I want to go here. No, let him guide you from here to where you want to be, and more importantly, where He wants you to be.
Right.
It's always great when those things coincide.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in all honesty, taking the internship, that was what God wanted, not what I wanted. I wanted to stay in Nebraska. I was finding every reason possible to stay in Nebraska, to stay home and to stay with my friends and to not move cross country for the second time in a year. And it was the greatest decision I've ever made because he led me on that one. Not I didn't follow what I wanted. So, next piece of advice, most
I want
uh,
to, just to summarize that, I want to grab on to a piece that was in everything you just said, because everything you just said was fantastic, but I want to grab onto a piece that was in there. Trusting in God and not pushing against God does not mean be complacent. Don't try to look everywhere else for what God has for you. Actively look where you are right now. Take no steps forward does not mean be complacent and wait. It does not mean that you are delegating and being lazy. Look where you are right now and then seek his wisdom from there. Because I know so many people can become complacent when they're like, well, am I just supposed to wait for something to happen? And they don't do
mhm.
the active looking around. Like they don't even look at their feet to see, oh, there's another path that leads off right there, and that's where I'm supposed to go. So, but that was sorry to cut you off, but
No, no, yeah,
that was a gold
absolutely.
nugget inside all that amazing pile of information you just dropped for us. So you said
Yeah,
you had another piece of advice.
yes. And if you're interested in going into politics, here's one of the greatest things I've learned, especially if you're working in and around the Virginia area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Make sure Gen J is on your resume. If you got an award at camp, list it. If you did an SAT, list it. And if you're for applying to political jobs, the amount of people who instantly, after learning that I did stuff with Gen J, because people who have seen Gen J SATs, who have been around Gen J activism, know that you students, when you're out there, again, like I said, I had hundreds of volunteers, and none of them were better than than 14, 15-year olds I had in a van on an SAT.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
the name is really well known in the Virginia area. If you're in, and even beyond, if you're in the campaign world, because Jen J has done some really big Senate and even presidential races back in '04 and '08. Did stuff with Bush. So I've had plenty of people from all who met Jen J people randomly all throughout the place who just knowing who Jen J was were willing to give me a chance. Um, that is what all of Gen J, all the people from 10 years ago on SATs to all the people just a couple years ago on SATs, working hard and caring as much as we have for so long has done. So carry the name of Gen J with you. Not annoyingly, but like carry that with you because it
Right.
will open doors. It absolutely has opened doors for me. And I'm not going to be upset if it opens more in the future, and I'm expecting it to.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point. And if you're watching this back in like Lord willing months, years from now, and Pathfinder is flourishing and you've done SATs with Project Pathfinder, the same thing applies. Put Pathfinder student action teams on your resume. Put crisis management, because that's what a lot of camp is crisis management. Putting Gen J and Pathfinder things on your resume is a good idea if you're getting into the world of project management, political activism, campaigning, anything like within those circles that have relevant skills. And if you're confused, you can totally reach out to somebody in the Discord who's done this kind of thing. Like, hey, are there any alumni that have put Gen J on their resume? Could you help me figure out how to put it down? And I'm gonna be honest. Some staff might respond to you and be like, "Oh, hey, yeah. Do you need a reference for your new job?"
If you do want to go into politics in any way, shape, or form, I'm in the Discord too. I've sent out many resumes. I've read many resumes for people applying to be on campaigns.
Mhm.
Done some hiring on campaigns as well. So I can take a look at resumes too if anybody wants help with that.
If you guys want to know more about Project Pathfinder, you can always go to projectpathfinder.net and look up all of the programs that we have to offer there. Thank you, Ryan Michaud, for joining us here in the studio tonight. If you're part of the Project Pathfinder Discord, you may be able to look and find Ryan's fantasy draft for Star Wars baseball. So until next time, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.